Have you ever thought that a simple breakfast, something you've eaten every morning for years, might be quietly draining the strength from your bones? Most people believe that starting the day with toast, fruit, maybe a warm cup of coffee or cereal, is part of a healthy routine. It's familiar, comforting, something you don't question. After all, it's what the doctor recommended years ago, right? But here's something that very few people over 50 realize. Some of the most popular breakfast choices in American kitchens can slowly weaken your bones if you're not paying attention. Not because they're processed or sugary or unhealthy in the way most people think, but because of how they interfere with your body's ability to absorb and retain calcium. And for someone already dealing with joint stiffness, low back pain, or early signs of osteoporosis, that small daily habit could be adding up to a bigger problem. The truth is, many of us don't feel the damage until it's already done. Calcium isn't just about milk or supplements. It's about how your body holds on to it, and whether your everyday habits are secretly washing away before it can reach your bones. This is especially important after 50, when natural calcium absorption drops dramatically. So if you've been eating what seems like a harmless breakfast, and you're noticing more aches in your knees, stiffness in your spine when you wake up, or you've been told your bone density is dropping, you're not imagining it. There are real reasons behind it, and they're more common than you think. Let's take a walk through your breakfast table and quietly ask, what's helping your bones and what might be stealing from them? The first one might surprise you, because it shows up on the table of just about every household that's trying to eat light or stay on a heart-healthy path. It's that glass of orange juice. For years, we've been told that starting the day with a tall glass of orange juice is a great way to get vitamin C and boost the immune system. And in theory, it sounds good. Vitamin C does support collagen production, which is important for joints. But here's what most people never hear. The high level of acidity in orange juice, and especially if it's paired with other refined foods, can change how your body handles calcium. You see, your body works hard to maintain a stable blood pH. When you consume highly acidic foods or drinks regularly, especially on an empty stomach, your body may respond by pulling calcium from your bones to neutralize the acid. Calcium is an alkaline mineral. It helps buffer acid in the blood. And over time, if your breakfast always starts with something acidic, like a glass of orange juice, especially without enough accompanying nutrients like magnesium or vitamin D, it may tip that balance. Now, this doesn't mean orange juice is bad. It's not poison, but for someone over 50 whose bones are already thinning and who may be unknowingly low in other minerals, that habit every morning for years can work against you. I remember my Aunt Linda. She's 68 now, walks every morning, always had a pretty clean diet, but she struggled with repeated leg cramps and hip pain. When her doctor finally ran a DEXA scan, it showed early osteoporosis. She was shocked. "I eat healthy," she said. "I don't smoke, I walk every day." But when we look closer at her daily routine, yogurt with fruit, orange juice, and black coffee, it turned out that the combination was acidic, calcium binding, and missing key nutrients to help her bones actually use the calcium she was getting. And speaking of yogurt, that leads to the second common breakfast item that many people assume is great for bone health: flavored yogurt with fruit. Now, plain yogurt, especially full-fat, unsweetened Greek yogurt, can be a decent source of calcium and probiotics. But most of the yogurts sitting on grocery store shelves today are sweetened, flavored, and heavily processed. The issue isn't just the sugar. It's how the sugar interacts with calcium metabolism. Sugar increases calcium excretion through the kidneys. So, when you're eating a peach yogurt that's low-fat, high sugar, and labeled calcium fortified, you're getting a confusing mix. Calcium in, but also calcium out. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. After 50, your kidneys aren't as efficient as they used to be. The body becomes more sensitive to fluctuations in blood sugar, and your ability to process sugar without creating inflammation declines. So that innocent yogurt cup with fruit syrup and added flavors, it might be increasing the calcium you're losing through urine, especially if it's your main source of breakfast. I've seen this pattern so many times. Friends in their 60s who say, "I eat yogurt every morning," and yet their joints ache or they've shrunk half an inch in height. When they swap it for plain Greek yogurt, Maybe add a handful of crushed almonds or sprinkle of chia seeds instead of syrup. Their digestion improves, the bloating goes down, and over a few months, their bone scans stop declining as quickly. But here's the trick. It's not just about removing the bad stuff. It's about giving your bones the right environment to absorb calcium properly. That brings us to the third hidden saboteur of breakfast: refined white bread and breakfast pastries. Now, toast is something many of us grew up with. Buttered toast, maybe with jam. A quick breakfast, easy, but white bread, especially the ultra-soft pre-packaged kind, is stripped of most nutrients during processing. It's made from refined flour that quickly turns into sugar in the bloodstream, raising insulin levels and increasing inflammation. But what most people forget is that these highly refined carbohydrates also contain phosphates, especially in industrial baked goods. And high phosphate intake, when not balanced with calcium, has been linked to reduced bone mineral density. The modern Western diet tends to be high in phosphates and low in magnesium and vitamin K2, two key nutrients that help guide calcium into bones instead of the arteries. My neighbor George used to eat a Danish in coffee every morning. He's 72 now, slim guy, energetic, but he kept complaining that his wrists hurt when he pushed up from a bed. His doctor told him it was just age. But we looked closer. His breakfast had no real protein, no magnesium, no calcium, and almost no fiber. It was sugar and starch. And every day, for decades, that had been the pattern. When he started swapping his morning Danish for a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter and a boiled egg, the changes were small at first. But after 6 months, his blood sugar evened out. And more importantly, the aching in his wrists faded. His next bone scan, slight improvement. Not a miracle, just a small shift in the right direction. Because here's the truth. At our age, the body is constantly recalculating. What you feed it daily is what it becomes. It's not about fear. It's about noticing what you've always done and gently asking, is this helping me now? What's tricky about these common breakfast habits is that they don't look harmful at all. They're what most people consider moderate or even healthy. But as we get older, moderation changes. The way our bones respond to food changes. It's no longer just about what fills you up or keeps your energy steady. It's about whether your body can actually hold on to the nutrients you're giving it. Let me give you a small moment from my own life. A few years ago, I was having breakfast with my mom. She's in her late 70s. I noticed she poured herself a bowl of bran flakes with skim milk, added a banana, and chased it with coffee and half a slice of toast. It looked balanced, maybe even smart, but she'd been complaining for weeks about lower back pain and brittle nails. Her bone skin showed mild osteopenia. Nothing urgent, but enough to pay attention. When we looked at that breakfast more closely, something stood out. The bran flakes, especially the wheat-based kind, are high in phytic acid. That's a compound found in grains and legumes that can bind to calcium and reduce its absorption in the gut. When you combine that with skim milk, which removes a fat that helps absorb vitamin D, and then coffee, which mildly increases calcium excretion, it starts to add up. Again, not dangerous in one meal, but quietly harmful over time. And here's where the emotional part comes in. My mom grew up in a time when eating lean and light was considered the healthiest path. She didn't want to eat whole eggs because she thought they were bad for the heart. She drank skim milk because it was better for the waistline. And sugar-free yogurts seemed smarter than the full-fat kind. But science has moved on. And we know now that calcium needs fat-soluble vitamins like D and K2 to get into the bones, and that ultra-low-fat diets can actually work against that. I sat with her at that breakfast table and said, "Mom, maybe we try something else tomorrow, just as an experiment." We swapped her skim milk for full fat, added a boiled egg with a bit of sea salt, and cut back the coffee to half a cup with a slice of whole grain bread instead of white toast. She grumbled, of course. But 2 weeks later, she said something I didn't expect. "I'm not as sore getting out of bed." Now, that might not be science. It's just one person. But it's the kind of personal story that shows what's possible when we gently adjust without turning everything upside down. The same goes for coffee. People often ask, is coffee bad for bones? The answer isn't black and white. Coffee, on its own, isn't the enemy. But caffeine in high doses and on an empty stomach may reduce calcium absorption and increase calcium excretion through urine. If you're drinking 2 or 3 cups every morning and not getting enough calcium, magnesium, or vitamin D in your diet, then yes, over time, it can contribute to bone loss. But if you reduce it to 1 cup, drink it after breakfast, and make sure your meals support mineral absorption, it becomes part of a balanced picture. And this is where we find the middle ground. Because let's face it, no one wants to give up their coffee or their toast completely. It's about creating an environment where the food supports your bones instead of draining them. For example, instead of orange juice, consider eating a whole orange. You'll get vitamin C with fiber, and it's less acidic than the juice alone. Add a slice of cheese or a few soaked almonds to that, and you got something that buffers acid and provides minerals. Instead of sugary fruit yogurt, try plain Greek yogurt with a spoonful of ground flaxseed or a few blueberries. Those small shifts may not seem dramatic, but over time, they help protect the calcium your body already has. There's something powerful about noticing your own routine without judgment, just paying attention. Like when you realize your knees feel stiffer after a sugary breakfast than after one with more protein, or that your back feels better on days you have eggs instead of cereal. One woman I spoke with at a senior wellness group told me she'd been eating toaster pastries for years every morning, out of habit, not taste. It's just what I've always done, she said. She didn't realize those pastries were packed with refined flour, corn syrup, and artificial phosphates, all of which tax the body and offer little in return. When she switched to a simple oatmeal with cinnamon, chia seeds, and a drizzle of honey, suddenly, her blood sugar stayed more stable. And more importantly, she didn't feel as hollow in her hips, as she described it. What's normal in our culture isn't always what's good for aging bones. But that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to be curious. Because bones are living tissue. They're constantly renewing. Even in your 60s and 70s, your body is still building, still remodeling. You're not stuck. And your breakfast, that quiet, daily ritual, is one of the best places to start giving your bones what they need. And it's not about being perfect. It's about tipping the balance gently, over time, in your favor. Maybe the most powerful image that stays with me is this. My mother sitting at the breakfast table, quietly spreading a little butter on a slice of whole grain toast. Her coffee now half a cup, her yogurt full fat and plain, a soft-boiled egg steaming beside it. No complaints, no dramatic changes, just small, thoughtful choices. And behind those small acts, something bigger. A body that still wants to be strong. A spine that still wants to hold her up when she bends to water the garden. Knees that still want to carry her through the grocery aisle without aching. We often think of bones as something fixed, hard, silent, unchanging. But bones are listening to us every day. They hear what we feed them. They hear how we move, how we rest, how we carry stress. And at breakfast, they either get the support to keep going or the slow erosion begins without us realizing. You don't need a revolution. You don't need to toss everything out. But you do deserve better than silent bone loss hiding behind the label of normal aging. You do deserve mornings that nourish you instead of slowly draining you. So if you found yourself thinking, that sounds like me, or maybe mom or dad eats that way too, take this as a gentle nudge. Try a little change. Try one new thing tomorrow morning, just one. Maybe it's skipping the juice and eating the orange. Maybe it's choosing a boiled egg instead of a pastry. Maybe it's just drinking water before that first cup of coffee. And if this helped you see your breakfast in a different light, please share it with someone else. Your spouse, a friend, a neighbor who just mentioned her knees hurting. Or especially, share with your parents. Sometimes the best care we can offer them isn't another doctor's appointment, but a simple breakfast that protects the bones they've used to carry us our whole lives. There's still time to build strength from the inside out, and it starts quietly, gently, with what's on your plate tomorrow morning.